to the country.
Today's session, we're going to be learning about Perkei Avos. It's a custom to say it on Shabbos. When is that custom exactly? Why? Right? The different customs of when to learn Perkei Avos. How did that develop? So this is going to be a pretty thorough presentation. The Torah in our Siman Reish Sadi Beis, relates in the highlighted section that's blue that the Ashkenaz custom is to say Pirkei Avos during mincha. That's also what's written by Rav Amram. However, the custom among Svardim is to say Perkei Avos in the morning on Shabbos. David's question is why? Why would we say it in the afternoon on Shabbos? And why would we say it specifically in the morning? Another question is, does this apply the entire year or just specific times? Source 2. The Mishnah, the Rema, the end of our Siman Reish Sadi says that there's a custom not to be, we'll forget about that. He says, Aval, Oimrim Pirkei Avos B'Kayetz. Says that we say Pirkei Avos in the summertime. Okay, this is referring to, based on the previous statement of the Rama, in between Mincha and Marav on Shabbos, specifically during the summertime. And you say Shir Amalos B'Chayrif, Shir Amalos in the winter, V'Kol Makom Lefi Minhago. Every place according to their custom. This question that begs to be asked is why? Why do we say it in the summertime? Why do we say it between Mincha and Marav? What's the significance about that? This Rema is clearly going like what the Torah said, that the custom among Ashkenazim is to say it mincha time, correct? Fine. The obvious question is why. So if you look down...
What about the Shemalos? So nobody does Shemalos. So is it just everybody does themselves?
Yeah, we'll have to address that. Maybe we'll come across that. That also is discussed over here. So if you look at the Mishnah Berurah over here, you'll find that he says nothing about this topic. Okay? He really doesn't explain any of the reasons. The Oz V'Hadar Mishnah Berurah presents they really give a very nice shir. They have a very nice presentation of this topic, discussing, analyzing, explaining. So we're going to go through what they say, and this will give us tremendous clarity in Pirkei Avos, and then additionally we're going to quote some other sources. Bring the background information. Seder of Amram Gon, you say every single Shabbos, Perkei Avos, similarly the last perek called Kinyan Torah, the way to acquire the Torah, that's what the Rasag says, Rav Sadja Goin. Okay. Also the Sefer HaYashar, these are all Svardim from Rishonim.
The whole Shabbos.
Yeah, that's right. Every single Shabbos. Any Shabbos of the year, it doesn't matter what season you are, what time it is, it doesn't matter. But the Sefer HaManik says these are all great Rishonim. It's implied that they would say the whole Perkei Avos on Shabbos, not just one perek a week. However, the Sefer HaManik says that it's better to just do one perek a week in order to properly understand it. And this is quoted by many Rishonim, related by many Gedoli Rishonim to go through the Perkei Avos during every single Shabbos. Just one point, we take for granted how we finish the whole Torah annually. Right? Question is why? Could have been that there was going to be a 3-year cycle. That way you learn a little bit slower and with better understanding. So it's the same thing with Pirkei Avos. Used to be you finish the whole thing every week, but then you said, what are you rushing for? Better to go slow and get clarity. Important point. Why Perkei Avos? Why do we do it in between Mincha and Marav? By the way, if you ever need a good shir that you need to give and you just want it up your sleeve on Shabbos, you could say this, especially in the summertime. This is gold. This is reusable. This is fire. I'm going to send everyone the notes so you'll have it with you. I know everyone takes such great notes over here, but I also take notes. So I'll send you mine also. in addition to yours. So you'll have it. You could use it for a shear. You're good. Now you're magid shear. Between mincha and ma'ariv, where does this come from? It says in the Lakute Pardes, attributed to Rashi, Yudches the Shiboli Haleket, Great Rishon, Simin Kuf Kavav, explains at the beginning of Pirkei Avos, opens up as we discussed, according to JavaBan.com, first Mishnah. See the Pirkei Avos, the Avos playlist. We discussed it. Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. Moshe accepted the Torah from Sinai, Mount Sinai, Har Sinai. A lot of questions. You can't accept something from a mountain. It's inanimate. What does that mean? What does it mean, Moshe kibel Torah miSinai, from Sinai? It should say Al Har Sinai. Moshe accepted the Torah from Hashem. A lot of explanations. But the point is that the opening mission of Avos says the Torah came from Moshe helped transmit the Torah. Transmit, I like that word. In other words, we're speaking about the honor of Moshe. And as we already learned in the previous sessions, Moshe passed away at this time. Okay? Passed away at this time. And therefore, there's a custom to speak about the honor and good deeds of a person after he passes. And that will help him rest. So this is one reason why we specifically learn Perkei Avos in between mincha, ma'ariv, and Shabbos, aka Moshe died during that time. I mean, it's a whole discussion like we saw in the Bach, but simple explanation, he died or got buried during that time by Hashem. Therefore, we learn Perkei Avos then, which discusses Moshe in the beginning. That's reason one. Off the bat, we have a tremendous amount of logic. Off the bat, we have a tremendous difficulty that we encounter, aka what is the explanation of the Sephardi custom to say Perkei Avos in the morning on Shabbos, not mincha, then, according to this reason. Moving right along.
When do they say it? When do they say it in the morning?
Shabbos morning, somewhere in Shabbos morning.
Okay.
Morning, not mincha.
After davening, maybe?
No, I don't know. I don't hang around Sephardi places.
Right.
I have to ask around. The Machzor Vitri in Siman Kuf Mem Gimel writes that they had the custom to say Pirkei Avos because Pirkei Avos talks about Yira Shamayim and Derech Eretz, way that we could properly fear Hashem and have proper etiquette. Derech Eretz, proper midos, good characteristics. And we know that it says in Baba Kama, the Gemara teaches us in Daf Lamed, that if you want to be a chassid, a pious person, l'kayim mili davos, you fulfill what it says in Pirkei Avos. So they said, all right, you should say Pirkei Avos between mincha and ma'ariv, because who's around between mincha and ma'ariv sometimes? Amaratzim, people who are ignorant, they don't know how to learn the sugyas in depth in the Gemara, etc. So they're there anyways, like we discussed in a few sessions ago, to hear laning. And therefore, once they're there, buy one, get one-stop shop, aka we get them to hear Avos and they'll learn about good midos also while they're there. That's what's also related in the Sefer Menhagim, Debei Maharam Rutenberg. It's in order to be Makarev Libum Shal Yoshvi Karanos L'Torah. In order to get the Yoshvi Karanos closer. Yoshvi Karanos, as we explained, the people who aren't learning so much during the week. Now we'll get them to have an extra laning on Shabbos. Then once they're there, we'll also get them to have the Pirkei Avos. Now, we obviously have to address the issue. If a person knows himself, he's not a Yoshvi Karanos. Is there still an idea of doing that? So the answer is yes, according to the reason of Moshe. What's the explanation of the Torah? So they explain beautifully. The Torah, when he said that the Sephardim have the custom to say Pirkei Avos in the morning, you have to say that their reason has nothing to do. Sephardim hold that the reason for saying Pirkei Avos has nothing to do with Moshe. Rather, it has to do with the Yoshvi Karanos, with the Amaratzim. People who don't know how to learn are there. They're there more in the morning. You got the big kiddush for them also that they're coming in for. So now, once you throw out the bait and reel them in, boom, unleash some Pirkei Avos on them. That's the Sephardim. Could be. Can't make this up. This is humorous, right? But it's true. It's true. The Rishonim explain everything that we just quoted. There's no difference, summer and winter. In other words, either you have the reason of Moshe or you have the reason of the Amaratzim, the Yoshi Koronas. People who don't know how to learn. Applies the whole year. Why then is it brought down in the Rema to say specifically Bekayitz in the summer? Where does that come from? Tell you where that comes from. If you look in the Sefer Hamanig, he says the custom is to say it specifically in the summer. Why? Because the summer is Shehin Yamin Aruchim V'Ha'am is Vatal Malachim. You know, the summer months are very long and people aren't working. People aren't working the whole time, right? Especially on Shabbos. No one's working on Shabbos. Long days. Long days. What do you do? Much easier in the winter. So what do you do? Oh, so now I'll tell you what you do. You fill that extra time with some Torah Kedosha with Perkei Avos. Specifically in the summer, you do it, right? That's only in the summer when people are just sitting around outside. In the winter, that doesn't apply. However, the Sefer HaMachkim writes, the custom is to say it in the summer because you want everyone to understand what it's saying. Right? And there's a delight. There's more time. Similar idea over here. Right? If you want to properly explain what it says in Perkei Avos, just like any area of Torah, it takes time. When do you have that time practically? When the days are longer. When are the days longer? In the summer. So it's a little bit of a tweak of that reason over there. And this explains the beginning part. The other part of the Rama, excuse me. Why do you say the Shir Hamalos in the winter? Because it's quicker. You have less time. That's why you do it in the winter. Nowadays people do Perkei Avos quick anyways. You're right. You keep what the custom was, and you do the Pirkei Avos only in the summer, and preferably, hopefully, you'll do it slower anyways. According to this, even according to the reason that we say Pirkei Avos be mincha mar is because of Moshe, since they try to explain it more and go into it, you say it specifically in the summer when you have more time. The Maharal writes a similar reason and then provides another reason. In the winter, it's cold, it's raining, it's snowing. Ein das adam salula. A person's mind isn't clear. And we know that the Gemara in Eruvin Samachei, other places says you could only learn Torah properly when your mind is clear. You don't have anything else on your mind, on your to-do list that you have to do. It's brought down certain rabbis, anything that they would have to do, they just get it done so that they could just fully focus on their learning. You want to get it all out of your mind. You want it to be clear. When the weather's also clear, it's easier. You're more settled as opposed to if it's raining, if it's cold. More difficult to concentrate properly.
I like when it's it's when it's raining outside. I like. All right, whatever.
That's you. Most people, that's not the
Yeah,
case.
but you can concentrate better.
There's a certain set of calmness when the weather is perfect, when it's nice and sunny outside.
I have a bigger yitzhar to get outside. That's me in a big point.
That's you. So you are what you call batla daisa letzokol adam, which means you're an abnormal. Most people, their mind, psychologically, emotionally, they're in a different state when it's nice weather.
Walking around the 20-degree weather, you can't wait to get inside as opposed to.
Right. No one's hanging out outside when it's 20 degrees.
Yeah, so we're saying that you learn better when it's colder out, or what? What are we saying?
No, when it's nicer weather in the summertime.
Exactly. So when you're 20 degrees, you want to be inside and you have no problem just, sitting.
No, you're not able to focus as much. You have in mind, the weather, you have other things on your mind. When the weather's good, it's one less thing on your mind. That's what it's saying.
I'm the opposite, but okay.
All right, look at the Gemara in Eruvin over there, Samach. You're arguing on the Gemara. Okay. Now, when it comes to learning Be'ir, you're learning in depth, right? So we discussed in the past in Siman 291, Risad Yalef, that it could be a bittul of Einik Shabbos. Some say you're not allowed to learn in depth on Shabbos. We didn't come out that way, but there is an idea. There's an idea. We saw something said that. The Gemara in Tamura Yudal and Mabeis relates to Rebbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish that on Shabbos they were learning specifically Agadata. So in other words, if we combine all these reasons together, this is why the custom developed to learn specific Pirkei Avos specifically in the summertime. This could also reconcile why, this could explain nicely why there's a custom to learn Pirkei Avos also between Pesach and Shevuos. That's a time when the weather is perfect. Beautiful weather. Has to do with weather. After Shevuos, it already starts getting hotter. If it's too hot, it's hard to learn when it's too hot. Okay? Could be those who had the custom to learn Perkei Avos in the summer, it was because it wasn't too hot in those locations, or they had air conditioning you could have nowadays. Right? The Chassam Sofer offers another reason why we learn Perkei Avos specifically in the summertime, from Pesach until Sukkot. When did we receive the Torah? Matan Torah began essentially with the Yetzias Mitzrayim. The Exodus was the first stage of us receiving the Torah. When was it completed that we received the Torah? Really on Yom Kippur time, when we received the second Luchos that stayed. And therefore, specifically during this time, we learn about Pirkei Avos. Fences for the Torah, honoring the Torah, all that. So this is basically another explanation where it comes from. Now, let's just go back to something that we discussed before. Those are some of the reasons. Something that we discussed before. So, Rav Amram Gon and Siddur Rashi, L'kuti Pardes from Rashi, Sefer Yashim, many Rishonim seem to say that we say Pirkei Avos the entire year on Shabbos. Okay. So the obvious question to this is, what's going on here? Right. So if you look over here, they relate over 10 different customs when to say Pirkei Avos. This is just good to know about in general. Okay. Many different reasons. Custom 1, the entire year. Custom 2, specifically in the summer. Custom 3, specifically in the winter.
Perkei Avos?
Yes. Different customs of when to do it. Quoted by the Rishonim that we just saw. You could also look at the Kolbo and Siman Mem. I looked up. It's short customs, but a lot of Rishonim bring different customs. From Pesach until the Shabbos before Shevuos. Okay? They go through the entire calculation. It's a time that prepares us more for, this is actually a very nice reason. The time of sefira, we are anticipating when the time when we receive the Torah is on Shevuos times, Matan Torah. We learn Perkei Avos, which tells us to get more careful with mitzvahs, and furthermore, the weather starts getting nicer, and a person's desires for pleasures and the like start to increase, sometimes forbidden desires. So therefore, learning Perkei Avos helps combat that. Furthermore, the Levush explains, Pirkei Avos teaches us to accept upon ourselves the yoke of the Torah and mitzvahs. Talks about also how the Torah was transmitted from one generation to the next. Therefore, we say it from Pesach until which is the time that we were redeemed from Egypt until the time we received the Torah. Other reasons also. Look at the Midrash Shmuel in the introduction to Pirkei Avos. Okay, another time where there's a custom. The week after Pesach until the Shabbos before Shavuos B'Tammuz. It's another custom, a lesser known custom of when to say Pirkei Avos, but it's still nevertheless a custom. The sixth custom is from the Shabbos after Pesach until Rosh Hashanah, also lesser known custom. Custom 7 from Shevuos until Shavuos B'Tammuz, another lesser known custom. Custom 8 from Shevuos until Sukkot. Okay. Because that, like we said before, is the time when we receive the Torah until the second Luchos were given. Custom number 9 is from Shevuos until Parshas Maseh, a lesser known custom. Okay. Custom 10, when to say Pirkei Avos, is from Yisro until Parshas Veschanan. Those are the parshas that mention the 2 places in the Torah, the 10 Commandments, at Seres Dibros. Custom 11, from Parshas Yisro until Parshas Maseh. So basically what you have is around a dozen different customs of when to learn Pirkei Avos. I'd like to take this time just to point out that Many relate that there's a custom, and many have a custom to learn Pirkei Avos in between Pesach and Shevuos, like we saw. Medrash Shmuel in his Hakdama to Pirkei Avos, his intro, the Yabeitz, the Avujam, many others. Okay, they learn this. They learn this way. How could we reconcile the two main customs when to learn Pirkei Avos? It's in between Pesach and Shevuos, and Shavuot, the summertime, right after Shavuos. How could you reconcile this? So the Levush, I think we could use the Levush to reconcile this. The Levush in Siman Tafsat Gimel, Sif Dalid, relates that the main custom, according to everyone, is to learn Pirkei Avos between Pesach and Shavuos. However, people decided they can't get enough of Pirkei Avos; they had to learn more. They decided to learn after as well. All right. Another reason why there's a custom to learn Pirkei Avos between Pesach and Shavuos, the Levush explains, is in that location is that Perkei Avos deals with rebuke, ethics, mussar. We have to accept that upon ourselves between this time of Pesach and Shavuos when we receive the Torah. Similarly, Meom Loez provides this answer with a different twist. It's a holy time when the 24,000 students of Rebbi Akiva died, the days of Din, strict judgment. The teachings that are in Avos will be better received during this time period. Beautiful idea. The Yabeitz offers another reason. Torah only lasts in someone who perfected his midos, his characteristic traits. Derech eretz kadma l'Torah, it says in the Vayikra Rabbah. In Tess, you have to have proper etiquette, act properly before you sit to learn Torah. Torah is only given to a person after he reaches a shleimus, a completeness with his midos, with his characteristic traits. Similarly, Rabbi Karelnstein, in his Kuntras Ben Yonei Chodesh Nisan V'Chag Pesach on page 116, says that the mission Avos says, Im ein derech eretz, ein Torah, which literally means if there is no derech eretz, which means the proper etiquette, like we said before, then there's no Torah. Right? So you have to have both. You have to have both together. That's what we see from this. Rabbeinu Yonah explains, first the person needs to perfect his midos to the best that he could, even without the in-depth Torah knowledge, and then only after that will the Torah be able to properly dwell. Torah doesn't dwell within someone who doesn't have proper midos. Shmuel Rozovsky explains that according to Rabbeinu Yonah, having good midos is like consider creating a kli, a vessel, to understand the Torah. If you don't have a vessel, you can't put your gold in something that doesn't have the vessel. You need the vessel. Okay? That's basically the idea that we have over here. A few different reasons of when to do Perkei Avos. It's a very interesting, a few interesting points that Rav Harfenis makes in his Shilas and Shuvas Nishma Shabbos pertaining to Pirkei Avos. With the remaining time that we have, we will go through these beautiful and applicable shuvas that he has over here. It says in the summer we learn Pirkei Avos. What about for an Ashkenaz person if he wants to learn Pirkei Avos at the Shabbos Suda, the table on Shabbos? It's not between mincha and ma'ariv. It's before chatzos, it's before halachic midday. Could he do that? Harfenis paskins that he could begin saying Pirkei Avos in the morning and finish at night. Leniency. Why and where does this come from, and why would someone even want to learn it in the morning?
Why not? It's a nice thing to sit by the table.
Exactly. More people are around a lot of times at the table. Later on, people are going here, they're going there, chavrusa, friends, whatever. Poskim write, custom say Avos. He's bringing everything that we just saw. We don't need to see it again. Okay, it's a waste of our time. But then what he says, for Ashkenazim, do we specifically need to say Pirkei Avos between mincha and ma'ariv? Or is it permissible to say even before Chatzos Hayom, halachic midday? And then he puts in parentheses, that could be a big benefit for many people because you'll be able to properly learn Pirkei Avos with your family, women included, girls included. Something that's very applicable. Everyone's mikubatzim yachtav. We're all gathered together. According to the reason of saying Pirkei Avos, quoted by the Avudraham and others, it prepares us for Kabbalah Torah, for when we receive the Torah. Or because the summertime, the Yetzer Hara, our evil inclination, is getting stronger because of the nice weather, and then our desires start kicking in different ways. So according to that, you could say it any time. It doesn't have to be mincha. Right? According to the 5 reasons for saying Pirkei Avos during this time, quoted by the Medrash Shmuel in his introduction to Pirkei Avos, it can be any time. Doesn't have to be in the afternoon. According to the reasons for saying it between Pesach and Shevuos, doesn't have to be in the afternoon. However, according to the reason that we're saying it because Moshe died at that time, and we begin Pirkei Avos by saying Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. According to this, you got to say it in between Mincha and Ma'ariv. Mincha time, you have to say it in the afternoon. Also, according to the reason related by the Machzor Vitri, which we learned, because people are gathered around, and we want to teach them proper midos, characteristic traits. The main time that was enacted to do that was Mincha time. Why not in the morning? In the morning, it's already long enough. It's tough to get people to... So it was done Mincha time. According to the reason that the 24,000 Talmidim, those students of Rebbi Akiva, died on Shevuos, that happened during sunset, perhaps. You got to do it at night. Interesting point over there. You got to do it later in the day on Shabbos. According to that, specifically has to be Achar Saharayim B'Shah Shkiyas Achama. Got to be afternoon time. Maybe even after sunset, between Mincha and Ma'ariv. It's also what's implied from the Rema. How is it implied from the Rema in Hilchos Tisha B'Av? It's in Tov Kuf Nun Gimel. Says Erev Tisha B'Av Shechal B'Shabbos. There's a custom, some of the custom, not to learn regular Torah on the eve of Tisha B'Av. If you could learn about Tisha B'Av or Avelus, you're learning about the halachos of the morning. The other things you're allowed to learn, as we discussed over there in that siman. That's one thing. But to learn other Torah, Pekudi Hashem Shar Mesamchili, the Torah gladdens you, you're not supposed to be in the state of happiness then. And therefore, you would not. The Rema says, if the eve of Tisha B'Av is on Shabbos, you don't say Pirkei Avos. Because you don't learn Torah after halachic midday on the eve of Tisha B'Av.
Even on Shabbos, at least possibly even on Shabbos.
Yeah, correct. So the obvious question is just learn the Perkei Avos before halachic midday. Or rather, you see, it's implied from the Shema. No, it has to be after midday.
Right?
It's pretty intense, no?
Wait, Ron?
Yeah. However, he wants to say, really, based on everything that we just presented, you have a lot of reasons you could do it anytime. You could do some in the morning and then some later. That's where he's coming from with this psak, with this ruling that he said in the bold over here.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Then he says, and we'll conclude with this point. He says, tangentially, I saw in the Sefer Leket Yosher on page Nun Vav, and actually, I think I made a PDF on this. Yeah. I'm going to just share what it says in Leket Yosher. We're going to end with this tremendous chiddush. Perkei Avos b'Shabbos bein hashmashos upam achas b'Shabbos bein hashmashos lo amar Perkei Avos v'amar yadati ani sheini atem yosh v'kranos. Leket Yosher says, I'm not a yosh v'kranos. I'm not an amaretz. I don't need Perkei Avos. I don't have to say it. Maybe. He says right over here, Shepam lo amar Perkei Avos bein hashmashos she'amar she'yodeh benafsho shu einu miyosh v'kranos mashma she'nisken v'akar shel yosh v'kranos. Like Yosher said, I'm not a Yosher Kronos, I'm not an Amaretz. I know how to learn. Perkei Avos is for the people who don't know how to learn. I don't need to say it. That goes nicely with the reason of the Machzor Vitri, that learning Perkei Avos is because everyone's gathered for the laning anyways. They weren't able to learn as much during the week, so now you get them Perkei Avos also. So he says you don't need to. So in terms of this, you have to do it. So you see it from the language of the Rema. The Rema itself doesn't call it a chiyuv. The Rema itself says nahagu. It's custom, right? It's a custom. No, that's not to learn. Then he says aval oimrim Pirkei Avos. You say Pirkei Avos. Yeah, it's an obligation, not an obligation. Oimrim, you say it. Seems a little strong for the Rama. Like at Yosher saying, forget about it. Doesn't apply to me. Now, the Moshe reason would apply. Some of the other that would certainly apply. So this is basically a presentation of the story with Perkei Avos and at different times. I think that this is very thorough.
Very thorough.
You won't. I don't think you'll get something as thorough as this. This is
All right.
good understanding. All coming up in our simon.
Yep, very good.
All right,
go ahead.
Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we'll continue. Have a nice day.
Have a good day.
Ugh.